Shane van Gisbergen went 29.2 seconds down with 24 laps left at Watkins Glen, and he won by over 7 seconds. Let that sit for a moment. That is not a typo, and it is not an exaggeration pulled from a highlight reel. That is the documented, verified math from one of the most extraordinary performances in recent NASCAR Cup Series history. But here is the thing, the comeback itself is almost beside the point. What SVG said into the microphone right after crossing the finish line, what Michael McDow quietly admitted about trying to race wheel-to-wheel with him, and what Connor Zeille revealed about his own gut punch of a day, those three conversations tell you more about where this sport is heading than any lap time or points standing ever could. And almost nobody is talking about them. That changes right now. Shane van Gisbergen did not sneak up on anyone at Watkins Glen. He led 74 of 100 laps in that race. For the first 60 laps, this was not a nail-biter, not a battle of attrition, not a strategy chess match. It was a driver in complete, methodical command of a road course that he has made his personal property inside NASCAR. He was managing the field, managing his tires, and managing the race with the kind of quiet authority that separates elite road racers from everyone else in the garage. Then lap 60 arrived, and a caution bunched the field and forced every team into a critical strategy decision. 9 cars stayed out on track. SVG came down pit road for what his team hoped would be a final tire stop, fresh rubber, clean air, a platform to close out the win. What nobody fully accounted for was exactly how deep in traffic that stop would bury him. When SVG rolled off pit road and saw where he was in the running order, he got on the team radio, dropped a curse word, and told his crew that he believed his shot at winning was gone. Crew chief Stephen Doran did not panic. He talked SVG through it methodically. The drivers ahead were going to be nursing worn tires and saving fuel to make it to the end, and SVG on fresh rubber had a genuine tire advantage that would grow as the laps wound down. He just had to trust the numbers and start hunting. SVG heard the message. He did not fully believe it. And then he started driving anyway. What followed across the next 24 laps was the kind of performance that broadcast commentators reach for superlatives to describe. SVG erased 29.2 seconds of deficit, hunted down Ty Gibbs, Connor Zeille, and Michael McDow one by one with a precision that looked almost mechanical in its consistency, and crossed the finish line with a 7-second cushion over second place. The broadcast commentary called it one of the greatest performances in the history of road racing in NASCAR. Here is where the story gets genuinely interesting, because most of the post-race coverage zeroed in on the lap times and the margin of victory and left the most revealing part of SVG's media availability sitting unreported. After crossing the finish line, SVG walked up to the microphone and said something that almost no winning driver in any form of motorsport would ever volunteer: the car was not even good in practice. Qualifying turned things around for them. And then, the detail that matters most, he admitted openly that even while he was in the middle of executing that 24-lap comeback, he was not sure it was going to work. That is a remarkable thing to say out loud. Most drivers in that situation choose one of two lanes on the microphone: either they project total confidence and make it sound like they knew the result was inevitable, or they quietly redirect toward the team and the strategy and avoid saying anything that sounds like self-doubt. SVG did neither. He was direct, factually honest, and specific about the uncertainty he was carrying while he was making every single pass that decided the race. The reason that matters is what it confirms about how he operates under pressure. Doubt did not slow him down. Uncertainty did not compromise his execution. He was carrying genuine questions about whether the strategy would hold, and he still drove a flawless 24-lap sequence that erased nearly half a minute of deficit. That combination of intellectual honesty and physical execution under pressure is genuinely rare in elite competition. It is one thing to perform when you are certain. It is a different thing entirely to perform at that level when you are not. The numbers that surround this win make the context even harder to ignore. SVG now has 7 Cup Series wins in just 14 road course starts. That is a conversion rate that belongs in a different conversation entirely, one about where he ranks historically among road course specialists in this sport, and whether what is unfolding right now is the beginning of something that will be referenced in NASCAR for decades. Before moving to the garage conversations and the dramatic subplot that played out on the other side of the paddock, it is worth pausing on something that does not show up in the box score but is inseparable from what Watkins Glen on May 11 actually meant. This was SVG's first Cup Series win driving the number 97. That number is not random. SVG's father, Robert van Gisbergen, raced under that number. Shane carried it through motocross, through speedway racing, and into the Supercars Championship in Australia, where he accumulated 80 wins and 3 championships under that plate. When Trackhouse owner Justin Marks offered SVG the opportunity to switch to the 97 for 2026, SVG's father wrote him a letter to mark the occasion. SVG tried to read that letter out loud in a media session. He could not finish it. The race at Watkins Glen fell on SVG's birthday weekend. His birthday is May 9th, and the race ran on May 11th. He crossed the finish line at a track where he had already won before, in a car carrying a number that connects directly to his father and to every chapter of his career before NASCAR. Back-to-back wins at Watkins Glen. A number that carries a lifetime of meaning. Those are the facts of what happened on May 11th, and they are worth understanding before moving forward. Michael McDow finishing second at Watkins Glen was a legitimate, hard-earned result. He restarted 27th at one point in that race and worked his way back through the field to the runner-up position, the kind of day that matters for a Spire Motorsports program working to build credibility and momentum inside a competitive garage. Nobody should take anything away from what McDow and that team accomplished on May 11th. But what McDow said after the race is what demands attention, because it is the most genuinely alarming piece of information to come out of Watkins Glen for everyone in that field. During the final pit cycle, McDow came off pit road right alongside SVG. Same tires. Same moment. A completely equal restart. No strategic gap, no tire age difference, no setup advantage, just 2 drivers on fresh rubber with clean track in front of them. And SVG drove away from him immediately. What McDow admitted on the microphone was that for a brief moment, he thought they might be able to run with SVG, and then it felt like SVG was simply using McDow as a reference point before pulling away at will. That is not an excuse. McDow was not deflecting blame onto equipment or strategy or circumstance. He was giving SVG a direct, honest compliment, and simultaneously handing everyone in that garage a piece of uncomfortable information. SVG, on equal tires, in an equal restart situation, with no strategic edge, was not even fully committed to the throttle. He was pacing himself off the second-place car and still pulling away. The field needs to be paying close attention to that quote, because it tells you something about the margin between SVG and the rest of the field on a road course that a lap time chart alone will never fully capture. The emotional counterpoint to SVG's dominant afternoon was playing out a few positions back, and it deserves its own section because it carried genuine weight. Connor Zeille, 19 years old, qualified 5th at Watkins Glen. He ran inside the top 5 for the majority of the race. He was running door-to-door with Ty Gibbs through a significant stretch of the second stage, not surviving, not hanging on, but genuinely competing with established names for real track position. He was set up, at minimum, for the first top 5 finish of his Cup Series career. Then, with the finish line within reach, his tire cut. He fell back to 20th. On the radio after the finish, Zeille acknowledged he was not entirely surprised. They had been on those tires for an extended run, but the frustration in his voice was real and audible. He noted that if the race had been approximately 8 laps shorter, the outcome might have looked very different for the number 7 car. What matters about Zeille's post-race media availability is not just the frustration, it is how he handled it. He congratulated SVG directly. He credited his own team's pace. He did not direct blame at anyone inside or outside his organization. For a 19-year-old absorbing what was genuinely a heartbreaking afternoon, that composure is worth noting as a factual data point about how he operates publicly under pressure. The tire failure cost him a result the speed clearly supported. The pace he showed at Watkins Glen confirmed that on road courses, Zeille is not a passenger, he is a threat with a ceiling that has not been fully tested yet. While SVG was celebrating in victory lane and kicking rugby balls into the crowd at Watkins Glen, a different story was unfolding on the other side of the garage, and it is the subplot from this race weekend with the longest potential tail heading into the rest of the 2025 season. Bubba Wallace finished 29th, Christopher Bell finished 21st. Neither driver had the kind of Sunday that their programs need at this stage of the regular season. Cameras caught both drivers in a visible, clearly heated confrontation in the garage area. The body language was direct and unambiguous enough that broadcast commentary addressed it in real time. The specific on-track details that triggered the confrontation remain contested and unclear based on available information, but the confrontation itself was not ambiguous. Both drivers were visibly heated, and the exchange was on camera long enough for it to be documented thoroughly. Christopher Bell is a legitimate championship contender in 2025. In a season without a clear dominant points leader, any distraction, any bad blood, any relationship that requires management, it carries amplified weight at this stage of the calendar. Bell cannot afford for a garage confrontation at Watkins Glen to carry into the next stretch of races and cost his Joe Gibbs Racing Team focus or preparation time. Bubba Wallace historically does not let incidents settle quietly, which means the probability of this story generating additional chapters before the next road course race is high. With 2 weeks before the next points race on the calendar, both sides have time. Whether they use it to cool down or let things develop further is a question the next few weeks will answer. If this breakdown delivered information and context that the highlight packages and lap time graphics did not, then you already know what to do. Hit subscribe so you do not miss the post-race analysis, the garage conversations, and the strategy details that actually explain what is happening in this sport week to week. Drop a like on this video if it gave you something the standard coverage missed. It directly helps more NASCAR fans find this channel, and that matters. We will see you for the next race.